Okay, it is DC the Blacksmith back with another N-Ray vlog. We're going to cover the House January 6th House Select Committee hearings. I'm calling them hearing day 9 and day 10. I will put the dividing you know what in the description, the timestamp. I will put the timestamp description. Yes, hearing day 9 took place in October. We are now not in October, but the hearing day 10, as I call it, took place in December. So if we count from hearing day 10, I'm not too late. Anyways, so I am going to start with an introduction on me being over these hearings. And I almost didn't do a recording. I almost just did a written entry on my summarization or surmising what happened because I'm over it. And this is going to be a speed run, and I'm going to give you guys the gist of everything, and I'm not going to bury the lead, but I'm going to start with explaining why I'm over the hearings. There's a few reasons. These hearings are great business, are great official records of what happened on that day. These are great records based on who did what in the lead up, who did what during the attack, who could have helped and did not help, who helped when they weren't supposed to be the ones helping, and how we got here and where do we go from here. However, I'm not seeing action. I'm not seeing where there's going to be an action or consequence in these hearings. And there's a few points when I get to them from day 9 in particular that I'll talk about why if we aren't going to have actions, then some of this should have been not publicly available information. I'll get to that. So the lack of action that is expected, the inaction expected to come from these hearings is frustrating. My other frustration with the hearings, and this is not so much as with the hearings, my frustration is learning about the childish behavior of President Trump and the spineless behavior of the people that saw his childish behavior and did nothing. His behavior was real pouty, real, I'm just going to say I won whether I won or not. I'm having an argument with you, and regardless of who's right, who's wrong, all of a sudden, I'm right and you're wrong. I'm right and you're wrong. I'm right and you're wrong. I won. It's very childish. I'm just going to say I won no matter what I did. I'm just going to do this no matter what. It's real tantrumy. And that is a frustration to me as an adult. Can we please, as adults, normalize being grown, being adults? Grow up. Y'all are in politics. He's throwing a tantrum. Fight back. Fight back does not mean January 6th. It does not mean fisticuffs. It doesn't mean, it means do your job. All of y'all are adults in there. If, get on TV and very actively say he is wrong. He is wrong for these reasons. People need to, it just seems very, very childish, like tantrum throwing. And then also equally as childish is this culture of, oh, I don't want to say nothing. Well, I mean, I know it's wrong, but I'm not going to say anything. This culture of being complicit in things. Anyway, I'm going to speed run probably through day 9 and maybe through day 10. But let's start with day 9. So they called this a business meeting. I'm calling it day 9. That's how I have it in my notes. That's how they should have record kept. Keep things kind of easy for people to remember. Whether you as a committee consider it a business meeting or not, call it committee hearing day 9, business meeting. But keep things definitive for us as far as record keeping goes. So that's one thing. So the big thing that came out of day 9 is at the end of at this hearing, they voted unanimously to subpoena President Donald Trump. I think they voted by resolution. They might have voted to subpoena a few other people, but the big thing to not bury the lead and not lead y'all on is that they voted to subpoena President Donald Trump, or former President Donald Trump. Cool. So we'll get to that when we get to that. It opens up. Chairman Benny Thompson speaks. He says, we started this process 4 months ago, or 4 months ago, something happened. Since then, we've heard people, skeptics. They said we're doing some type of agenda. This hearing has been a witch hunt. I just think that's ridiculous. Had they gotten like Democrats and Republicans who've never liked Trump to be the star witnesses, then to me that looks more like a witch hunt, because of course people who don't like me are going to say or imply negative things about me. That's usually how it happens by way of human nature. But in this case, these are former supporters of the president, former close allies of the president, former staff members of the president. I think they had a former Oath Keeper or Proud Boy, something like that, up there talking. These are former supporters of the president who are saying, yeah, his actions were wrong. And we know they were wrong, and we need to say they were wrong. Now, some of these people probably, their arms been twisted, and the president talked about them so much like a dog, and now they're like, well, I got nothing else to lose. I might as well say something. And we can talk about being cowardly, but the point is, I think one of the witnesses even said if Trump ran again, he would consider supporting him again. And he was still up there saying that the president was wrong. So that was a ridiculous narrative. At this hearing, each person that spoke, they were summarizing a different part of past hearings. I didn't catch on to that until a little bit later. So I don't have a heading to every person that speaks. But, and again, to be honest with you, at this point, it doesn't matter particularly that much. But we're going to speed run, and I'm going to try to lay this out how it was laid out to us. So Liz Cheney talks, and she says there's been new evidence about attempts to obstruct this investigation. She talks about how she lost her August primary in Wyoming. A lot of the reason that she lost was for her willingness to be on this committee and to speak out against the former president about January 6th. Liz Cheney was one of the first people to speak out against the president regarding January 6th before this committee hearing was even a thought. She was one of the first people to say that it was inexcusable. And from then on, she had a target on her back, figuratively speaking. And I applaud her for still going through with her primary instead of just, I'm just not going to run for re-election. I'm just resigning. I'm sure she has other things in mind. And I'm sure that she probably saw the writing on the wall, and maybe she didn't expend as many resources as she could have because the decks were stacked against her. And I do believe she's going to do something in the future, but at least she put forth a little bit of effort. I'm sick of all this. I'm just going to resign. I'm not going to say nothing else. I'm just going to leave. That to me, we have reached the point after January 6th where that is no longer effective. I'm just going to leave. That does nothing. To me, for all these people in light of January 6th who don't fight back anymore, they just, I'm just going to resign. I'm just not going to run for real. I'm just leaving. In the wake of what we saw on January 6th, I'm equating that to being a deserter. That's what from now on, and and it's one thing to say I'm resigning because I need to go do this. I'm resigning because I think I'll be more effective in this other position. But that's not what these people are doing. They're just, I'm not going to run for re-election because they know they're going to lose because they decided to have a backbone. I'm just leaving. What? I'm at this point, after we know what the outcome would be when we have a bunch of yes people around people like former President Trump, you're a deserter. You're leaving us to fend for ourselves. And I have a problem with it. I'm sick of it. Part of being an adult is not throwing a tantrum every time you don't get your way. But also part of being an adult is taking a stand sometimes, standing up for things you know. A lot of this is going to be commentary. A lot of this is going to be commentary, just to let y'all know. But I didn't bury the lead. I told y'all that the big outcome after we make it through all of this is going to be that the president they vote to subpoena the president on this day 9 of the hearing. So Liz Cheney talks about that today, even today, speaking currently in the year, at the time of this hearing, it was 2022. President Trump, his current state of mind, his current intent, and his motivation can lead to another January 6th. It could happen again. And she talks about, he made these claims on election night, months of unsubstantiated claims. People told him that the claims were unsubstantiated. There was an investigation by his DOJ that told him to go sit down. He still wouldn't sit down. He knew he lost, and he still continued to talk about it. She said that it is not patriotism to stand with a man who knew full well, her words, he knew full well he had lost. Some principles must go beyond politics. And to go into my soapbox, these Republicans and conservatives go to this Ronald Reagan time of choosing event. That Ronald Reagan a time for choosing speech was important. Liz Cheney was one of the only people recently that I heard who actually embodied what a time of choosing means. Ronald Reagan says that you and I have a chance to say to our enemies that there is a point beyond which that they will not advance. And there are certain things that we will not lay down just to exist. No, a time to choose to take a stand. That's what most people get out of that. That doesn't just apply to people that have always been the proverbial enemy. So at the Cold War times, it was easy to identify these people are our proverbial enemy. We don't like anything they stand for. So we're saying that no, we won't back down. You won't advance beyond our sensibilities. It's real easy to stand up to someone who you have always demonized. The true meaning I always take about taking a stand and saying there's a point beyond which that you will not advance is when you start to like people or when you start to like something. And so this something that is an enemy in this instance has not always been an enemy. It's the difference in courage to stand up to someone you don't like and to stand up to your friend who is doing something that you as a person cannot align yourself with. And that is the true meaning, I think, when we hear a time for choosing. You and I have an opportunity to stand up to our enemy. Your enemy is who is offending your principles and your morality and your sensibility in that moment. And in that moment, that enemy, proverbially, may not necessarily be someone that you've always not liked. That you may find yourself in a position to stand up to someone that yesterday you agreed with everything they said. But today, regardless of the fact that I agreed with you yesterday, today you're talking nonsense. And me, I cannot morally just say, oh, I agree. I don't. That's what it truly means to stand up for something. To stand up whether it's someone you've always not aligned with, or to stand up whether it's someone that you may have aligned with before. You have a time to say no. And all of these blind followers of Donald Trump, and not everyone. Now, I'm not talking about people like Liz Cheney, who we always mention her voting record. She voted with him in agreement with him like 90-something% of the time. But when it came time to say he was wrong, she said it. You can agree with his policies, but that doesn't mean that everything he does is, oh, everything is great. Everything is great. It's wonderful. That is not what Ronald Reagan meant by a time for choosing. I don't believe it. If Ronald Reagan came to me in a dream and told me that's what he believed, I'll come back up here and say I stand corrected. I don't think it's going to happen, because I don't think that's what he meant. Because I think he would look at something like January 6th and be appalled. How did we get here? He would ask himself. So we move on from Liz Cheney. Zoe Lofgren, Democrat from California, speaks. She talks about election night and how Donald Trump called for stopping the count, stopping the vote. People were telling him, it's too early to be talking about election fraud. It's too early to be doing all that. You just need to let the vote go, let the vote carry on, and then we'll deal with all that. But no one's stopping voting and all that. Apparently Donald Trump during this time was talking to outside advisors. I find extremely sketchy of a president. Now, there is gray area in the fact that although he is president, at the time that we're referencing, he also was a candidate. So he had to maybe have his own stuff as a candidate. However, my red flags go up. Then she says, apparently the National Archives go dark at some point in time. That's a problem. We'll come back to that, because I'll pick up another fact as I go into this hearing that I'm pretty sure I remembered to write down. That further, that I'll make a point based on that. So let's see. Then we get to, more stuff. Adam Kinzinger, he talks about the legal battles that Trump failed, whether they were on procedural grounds or not. He failed them. They didn't move forward. It was the end. That's where you fight election fraud claims in court. He did fight them in court and he lost. The most important piece of information that came from Adam Kinzinger's testimony this day was the fact that Donald Trump had issued an order for a large-scale troop withdrawal from Afghanistan and I think Somalia that would have been an immediate withdrawal. Now, at best, a large-scale troop withdrawal would have took a few months. At this time, this is like in November that this was supposed to happen. That would have ran right up until the inauguration of a new president. While presidents do inherit certain things, starting a large-scale troop withdrawal in November in anticipation of an administration change in January is ridiculous. That's chaos. That's called chaos. Anyways, it sounds like everybody was kind of actively ignoring this, which under other circumstances that probably would have been very problematic. But in the totality of circumstances, I think that was probably best. Everybody advised him against all this, but whatever. He had 62 cases that failed in court based on this. It's over. It is over. So then, let's see. Elaine Loria, Democrat from Virginia, talks. She talks about the campaign against the Dominion voting machines and lying on people that went on. Dominion voting machines, I know that they have or had a lawsuit against like Fox News, Newsmax, and some named personalities at Fox News. I know I can't remember if there were named personalities from Newsmax, but I know there were named ones from Fox. And either Dominion voting has won or will win that case. They're going to win that case or settle. They might settle. If I were Dominion, I wouldn't settle. Dominion is a private entity that is contracted, to do the elections. They don't necessarily have like a political obligation to voters, I guess, like necessarily. However, if I was Dominion, on principle, I think it is important to the nation that this Dominion machine case goes all the way up as much as it needs to go. They should win that case. And Supreme Court, for whatever reason, they want to play games right now. I suspect that it's some people drunk on conservative power. And that's not to say I'm not a conservative, but I also don't, to me, the best part of America is that I can be as conservative as I want to be in my house. That doesn't necessarily mean when I walk outside this house, everybody has to cater to that same level of conservatism. And I feel like it's some people who, it's just childish. It's childish. Not everybody has to live like you, but that needs the Dominion voting machine. I hope it doesn't get settled. I hope it makes it all the way up. And I hope they win. And I hope some people lose money because of it. Running behind lies. Stephanie Murray, Democrat from Florida, speaks. She talks about the false electors. I think that is actionable. I don't know why no action is being taken. I think that is actionable, like as a falsified federal document. Some type of fraudulent federal document, something in there. Action should be taken. Again, I'm frustrated because it seems like we're going to talk about stuff with no action, no consequences, no culpability is going to come of it. Next, Adam Schiff speaks. He talks about Trump ordering the magnetometers to go down so people can go into the rally without being beep, 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 without being checked, yada, yada. I think that's ridiculous. We all grumble about magnetometers, but I've never had to, I'm just not going to go in if they're going to have it. I've never had to do anything like that. Now, at Disney Springs, you have to go through a little magnetometer and bag check. I grumble when I get up in there. When they have to look through my bag, they ask what's in it, and I very flippantly tell them I'm a girl. Girl stuff is in it. Tools for makeup and brushes and tweezers and this and contraptions for periods and this and that. That's what's in it. I don't know. Of course it's going to beep. I'm not a boy who just walks around with a wallet. I'm a girl. I have a purse. There's a bunch of tools in there for beautification. Now, does that mean that go ahead and look through it? Fine. Look, I'm not, whatever's in there. I'm sure it's nothing that's of concern, but I hate when they kind of like ask you like, oh, why are you beeping? I'm beeping because I have a purse. That's why it's beeping. Here, look through it. Go ahead. Now, if I got there and I was like, I don't want somebody to look through my purse, that's the problem. But the problem is, why is your purse beeping? Because it's a purse. If there's something in it that you need to find, go look in it. But that's something different than that's me complaining. That's different than what was going on January 6th. The big thing that came out of Adam Schiff's part for me was that there's some Secret Service messages that are like erased or they can't find. So this is where I have a problem with the inaction. Erased Secret Service messages compared with we don't have any national archives of stuff and false electors. If y'all weren't going to be able to find any type of charges, culpability, who can we threaten to say either you find those messages or you come up with a real good memory or y'all need to be in jail or somewhere. If we're not going to have any type of consequences for this, I don't think this information should have been revealed to the public because what it says is hey, these people, we have a hole in the National Archives. We have a dark spot of information. And we know that people actually made false electors that they were going to send. And we know that Secret Service messages were erased. But nothing's going to happen about that. These things just happen. So in the future, when somebody wants to do this again, their point of reference is, oh, they did it before. And even though it was frowned upon, nobody was jailed or anything. There weren't any consequences. So by revealing this information that is very serious, that no consequences is going to come from it, at this point, are you encouraging or discouraging future repetition of the same behavior? I think you're encouraging it. So if y'all weren't going to have any type of action on erased Secret Service messages, false electors being actually drafted, and a hole in the National Archives, that should have been something that was kept, sealed, because that's outrageous, and nothing's going to come of it. So now we all know that if you want to erase Secret Service messages, I mean, it's going to be frowned upon, but it doesn't look like there's going to be any type of consequences. If you want to draft false electors, I mean, it's going to be frowned upon and talked about in hearings, but there's not going to be any consequences about it. And if you don't want to submit any information to the National Archives for a certain period of time, I mean, it's going to be frowned upon, but nobody's going to say anything about it. I mean, no, there's not going to be consequences. They might have a hearing on it, but there's not going to be consequences. That's what we all know now. Thanks. That is what frustrates me about the hearings. That's a problem. Y'all should have kept that in closed session then. Now everybody knows. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be talked about, but there's not going to be consequences. It's foolish. Let's see. During Schiff's little testimony, they played some audio that General Milley confirms that they had tips that the Proud Boys wanted to march armed to the Capitol, and they would have outnumbered police. So again, we know that there was advanced knowledge about the quantity of what was about to happen, and they were still outnumbered. So to me, the bigger investigation is into, with all the information you had leading up to suggest that you guys needed to have more police there, why did you not have more police there? That's the bigger investigation to me, because to me, we can actually have consequences from that. See how that works? Consequences. People see that there were consequences the last time it happened. That usually discourages 90-something% of the time doing the same thing in the future, because there's going to be a consequence. That's just me. So they take a recess. They come back. Pete Aguilar, Democrat from California, talks about how Trump was watching what was going on at the Capitol in the dining room. And at this point, did anybody expect anything more of him though? At the day of January 6th, did anybody, after he had been doing all he had been doing up until January 6th, did anybody expect more of him? And we know that Mike Pence was running the show and they wanted to kill the narrative. But my thing is, at the point in time where Mike Pence is taking calls about securing the Capitol, in my mind, instead of, I'm just going to resign, I'm just going to leave being a deserter, that should have been the point where the VP and the cabinet members talked about how, hey, president is unable to carry out his duties of office. We need to transfer power to the VP. How do we know that the president is incapable of carrying out his duties? Because he's not doing them. The vice president is doing all the things. Hey, and it couldn't have been me, because when they were doing all these, calling into these news stations while they were ducking under seats because the people were trying to attack them, I would have been saying, hey, we need to do a transference of power. Yeah, actually, we need to do that right now, because The vice president is taking all the calls, calling all the shots, doing what's supposed to be doing. The president ain't nowhere to be seen. Hey, cabinet members, we need to declare the president unfit for office at this point in time. He's unfit for office because if he was fit for office, he would be doing all this. But nobody wanted to do that because, cowardly and stuff. So who was one? Pete Aguilar. I'm moving on. Jamie Raskin speaks. At the time that I'm making this recording, Jamie Raskin has been diagnosed with a form of cancer or some type of ailment. I think that a statement was put out that he's in high hopes. He has a optimistic outlook on his treatment and things like that. Just keep him in your prayers. If you're a believer, if you're a non-believer, I don't know. Just a little note to anyone who's not necessarily a believer. As a believer, my way of encouragement is to pray for someone. So, and there are some mean-spirited people who say it, and it's not meaning it from the way I'm coming from. But I think most believers, I would like to believe that most believers look at it from me. If I tell you I'm praying for you, that's my way of demonstrating that I'm thinking of you, I have encouragement for you, and I want you to succeed. That's just how I communicate that, because that's what I do that's what I do. I pray for people. Some people are so easily offended. If I've had people of not Christian faith tell me that they're praying for me, I know that that's their way of saying, I want something positive for you. Want to encourage you by way of I can. It's just a way of being nice. But back to Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland. He talks about the inaction to stop the riot. More about Donald Trump not doing anything, sitting around not doing anything. Yep, that's what he does. They show video of Mitch McConnell from February 13th, 2021, saying that Trump was the only one who could end it. They show video of Kevin McCarthy, January 13th, I think 2021, saying Trump was responsible. Now, if you ask them today, I don't know. They probably gonna, back. Let me move on. Because I almost said something. Okay, so then Benny Thompson closes. And again, I already said it at the top of this. The big thing was, at the end of this, there was a council resolution that passed unanimously to subpoena President Donald Trump. I think that they also, passed resolution to subpoena some other people, but the big thing about it was the subpoenaing of former President Trump. So that's the end of day 9, as I call it. So now we're into the final hearing. And I think this to me is day 10, the final hearing. Not to bury the lead, the main thing about this final hearing is that they issued criminal referrals to the DOJ. And I'm going to speed through it, but I'm going to try to enumerate the code that each referral was based on, just for points of reference. So we have our opening statements by Chairman Benny Thompson again. He says, we expect that people whose names are on our ballots, when they are elected, will uphold the law. Donald Trump did not uphold the law. Accountability is a step to preventing another January 6th. I agree, but that remains to be seen. It seems like we're doing a lot of talking with no action, which I also think is detrimental. As I've mentioned in the previous, when I was talking about day 9, it says, last time, they're probably going to frown upon it. They're probably going to talk about us a lot, but there's not going to be any accountability. It sets a precedent for yeah, this isn't, people don't like if we do this, but if we do it, that's going to happen to us. I have a problem with that. He says, today we're going to present findings and proposal for law enforcement accountability. Cool. Proposal is not action, but it's a step. Next, the vice chair, Liz Cheney, speaks. She tells a story that I had not heard before. Her great-great-grandfather answered the call to fight for the Union Army. And she's been thinking about that. And I thought that was a cool story to tell. It must be nice to not have your people's histories erased and to be able to trace your lineage somewhere. Hello, colonialism and slavery. So, but moving forward. So then she talks about January 6th was the first time that a president refused to peacefully transition power. The legal system functioned as it should, but the president did not. She said it is most shameful that the president sat and watched for hours and didn't do anything. It's unlawful and it's a moral failure. Facts. Nothing but facts. They show video recap of the past hearings. Zoe Lofgren, she gives a little brief statement about, the big lie and her findings. Then Adam Schiff talks about the state pressure campaign, and he summarizes the past findings. Adam Kinzinger talks about the DOJ pressure campaign. And even though Trump's DOJ under Bill Barr investigated at the time, no findings. Pete Aguilar, the Democrat from California, talks about the pressure on VP Pence to go in there and just as a one-man electorate say that they'll declare the election for Trump. That was ridiculous. Stephanie Murray, the Democrat from Florida, speaks. She talks about how Trump summoned the group to the Capitol for January 6th. Elaine Loria, Democrat from Virginia, speaks, and she talks about Trump's inaction during the riot. Now, he just sat there and how he was derelict in his duty. And then Jamie Raskin, the Democrat from Maryland, he gives the proposals. And they all vote. And I'm sure that these proposals all, if they voted, they all passed, and they all passed unanimously from the committee. So these were proposed criminal referrals to the DOJ based on the January 6th scheme and plot. And this was to each one applied to Donald Trump and then other people, like John Eastman and some other people. But the big thing is that these were criminal referrals applicable to Donald Trump. So criminal referral, one was under 18 USC section 1512C, the obstruction of an official proceeding. 18 USC section 371, conspiracy to defraud the U.S. 18 USC 371 and 1001, conspiracy to make a false statement. This particular one was about the false electors. And 18 USC section 2383, incite, assist, aid, and provide comfort for an insurrection. So those were the referrals. They passed. They went to the DOJ for further whatever. And that seems to be the finale of these hearings, because now the Republicans have taken control of the House. And therefore, the Republicans aren't going to do any hearings. Is pretty much all I can say about that. So that day 10 final hearing was on December 19th. An update to that is that on December 30th, the January 6th committee withdrew the Trump subpoena. The subpoena was issued on day 9 of the hearings. So I don't know, but this is the end, at least of the hearings of that. There's still some stuff going on. I will be coming back for other stuff. Maybe I'll dip into some, look out for some, political commentary on strategy. I think some of these people maybe should employ moving forward, like Liz Cheney, Kinzinger, Jamie Raskin, those types of things. Strategy-wise, I have some thoughts, but this January 6th committee hearing has concluded. Look out for NRA blog. I might do a written post summarizing further my thoughts on the hearing. I might come back to the hearings every now and then in the video, but this saga is adjourned for now. As always, thank you for listening. Please remember to visit. I didn't even have it scrolling at the bottom of the screen this time. It's one of those days. It's one of those times. Please visit www.nrayblog.com for more content. Listen to us on YouTube, on Twitch. I have a podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Podbean, if you've heard of it. I think I'm trying to get on Apple Podcasts, but not yet. Just, keep checking in. We'll be back. Thank you guys for listening to me, and stay informed. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.